Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, and this is episode 53 of Azeroth United. We have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about the race to World First and kind of some of the history of it and its genesis and where it currently stands today as the race for Nerub-ar Palace gets going. We're also going to talk about some of the patch 11.0.5 PTR notes. We're going to talk about some delves. We're going to talk about the some classic news, and we're just gonna cover all of the current World of Warcraft news and some rather unfortunate Blizzard news, but we'll get into that. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And as always, if you have any questions or comments for the podcast, or if you have a particular topic that you would like to hear discussed, please email us at azerothunitedpod@gmail.com. If you are enjoying the podcast and you'd like to support us, please consider giving us a 5-star review and rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That really helps out the distribution. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Before I get into the news, I just wanted to do a quick roundup of what I got up to last week in World of Warcraft. It was pretty much all delves. Just delves. It sounds like a song. No, I did. So my guild did 3 bosses of Nerub-ar Palace. We struggled a little bit with some of the strategies. We were kind of figuring it out on the fly. I don't think anybody had really done too much prep work on that. I looked at the fights. Obviously, I talked about everything last week on the show, but talking about the fights and then going through each specific detail and figuring out how everything works, it's a little bit more challenging than maybe I would have liked. But I think once we figured out the strategy, the fights were actually pretty easy. So the first boss, piece of cake, no problem. I think we wiped one time because there was some uncertainty as to how to position the ads. So I was like, no, drag the ads to the center, because when the boss respawns, you're going to need to feed him. So anyway, we got that one. But the second boss, the blood drinker boss, that one, we really struggled with it because, so I don't know if this is just how the fight is designed or if we were just getting bad luck, or if we're just bad. But in the boss's arena, so you'd get the 3 ads that would spawn. And invariably what would end up happening is with one of our ad groups, we'd have 2 ads that spawned here and 1 ad that spawned on the opposite side of the boss. So we'd have to have everybody take the frontal onto the 2 ads and then run all the way around and get to the other ad, which we would always run out of time for. So yeah, that stank. That sucked. But we threw bodies at it. We added more people to the Flex Raid, and as we got closer to 30, the fight actually got easier. It's just one of those fights, the more DPS you have, the easier it is. Wow, go figure. We tore through that. And then the third boss, Sikran, that one, okay, so that was my bad. So I read the tooltip, and I didn't quite get it that we needed to tank swap each time on the different abilities. So the first time, the one tank would take expose and I would take the slash, and then we would switch. We were taking it. He would take the expose every time and I would take the slash every time, and that just wasn't working out. So, so that was raid last week. A nice group of people. Really enjoyed raiding with them. Very friendly and fun, and it was just kind of a good time. So it's very casual, chill. Although they did say that we're going to get a little bit more serious as we get further into the season. So yeah, that was good. I enjoyed the raid, but I did a delves out the Yabuza. So I did a lot of delves, but what I decided, looking at the loot and looking at the difficulty and all of the hotfixes that were going up and down for delves, I decided to skip tier 8 delves for this week. And the reason for that is because you get champion gear from 7 and 8. You also get hero gear in the vault from 7 and 8. The only differences are you get runed crests from 8, and you get a little bit higher of item level, so you can save on some Valor Stones and some crests. But other than that, there's really no difference. The 7s are just easier. So I went the route of least resistance, and I just the delves were easy, and that's what I did. So I really enjoyed them. Some of them were really annoying as you got higher level. Like the candle one was really rough, trying to get through that, because if you have to go into the darkness for any length of time, or you have the really big bulky cobalt adds, that was a little rough. But I think overall I didn't have any that I disliked. The underwater ones could be annoying, but for the most part, they weren't too bad. There was plenty of bubbles, and the boss fights themselves as a tank, it's kind of a whatever. The Fungal Folly, the last boss, was kind of annoying because there's little spores everywhere. But aside from that, it wasn't too bad. So yeah, I really enjoyed the delves. Had a great time with that. I'm still not sure who that content is for. I feel like if you make content for people who don't want to run dungeons and then you force them to do groups, it's going to be a problem. But we'll get into delves a little bit later in the show. The other thing I did was I started leveling up my 4th character, which is my druid. So my druid is a resto druid. I have 2 druids. This one is the resto druid. So I raided with him in Dragonflight quite a bit. Did a ton of Mythic Plus in Dragonflight, but he's kind of retired now. After season 4, I was just honestly, season 3, I was spent. I did a little bit of a Mirror Seal, and then I was like, I'm done. I can't heal anymore. This is just too much. So I took a break from the Resto Druid, and so I ended up leveling up a Monk and other stuff in Dragonflight. But the Resto Druid, I wanted to bring him back. He's my scribe, so I want to get my trade skills up, and it's just one of my oldest characters, and so he's one that I really want to play. So I realized very quickly that there's no point in playing a Resto Druid Resto unless you're in a dungeon, because it's just. So I do have a Guardian off spec for him that I used in Dragonflight for doing world quests and things like that. So doing the hunt and whatever, Suffusion camps. So I switched to Guardian and I started doing stuff, and then I was like, well, I'm going to do a dungeon, and I queued for the dungeon, and it prompted me to, like, you want Resto, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to tank it. So I tanked the dungeon as Guardian, and man, that was fun. That was so much fun. Guardian Druid, you're just slapping buttons. Yes, there's some strategy to it, more than just spamming, your head on the keyboard. But it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I don't know how good Guardian Druid is at max level because he's only 74. But it was really fun leveling up, especially with Dragonflight Season 4 gear. It was a good time. I really liked that. So I will be working on that character next. That'll be my next level 80. I'll get him up probably this week or next. And it's just overall it was a good week. I didn't do any Mythic Zeros. And there's a good reason for that. Because the loot in a Mythic Zero is so much less valuable than the loot from a Delve. So if you run a Tier 7 Delve, you're going to get Champion gear. If you run a Mythic Zero, you're going to get Veteran gear. You'll get Hero for a Delve in the Vault. You'll get Champion for a Mythic Zero in the Vault. I just didn't see the point. And people were saying they were really hard. Now, granted, it's going to be really difficult to go from nothing to M+ this week, but, I'm going to work my way into it, and I'll just maybe try and get into some pre-made groups, maybe see if the guild wants to run some keystones or whatever. So that's what I did last week. I did a little bit of stuff on the other characters, but mostly it was just delves, lots of delves, lots of leveling up on the druid and just kind of flying around and herbing and just making my way around the Khazalgar zones. It's a good time. I really like the warband system for leveling alts. It's really nice. I struggle because I have 2 Battle.net accounts. So my Battle.net accounts are not linked. And so my characters do not get progress. So I have 3 level 80s, but 2 of them are on one account and 1 of them is on the other account. So I'm not getting the true benefit of it like other people would, but that's okay. This is how I have things set up, and that's okay. I'm okay with it. I don't need it to be different just for me. So I'm perfectly happy to work within the game world that we have. So, all right, that's enough of that. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, we are going to start off with actual Blizzard news today, which we don't usually do, but when it does come up, I like to hit it first off. This is unfortunately not a good news. This is bad news. So Microsoft Gaming laid off 650, around 650. They didn't give an exact number. 650 employees that were part of the, primarily part of the Activision Blizzard division. And that sucks because we just had layoffs in January of 1,900 people across the Microsoft Gaming, primarily Activision Blizzard. They canceled the survival game. It was just a lot that it took a toll on a lot of people because, that's real people and that's their real livelihoods. And whether or not you like this game or that game, or that doesn't matter. That's a real person. And that's their real job and their real family that they now have to figure out how to support. That being said, business is rough, and not in terms of, the economy is hard. No, business is just tough in terms of caring about employees. That's just not the way things are done anymore. Maybe 50 years ago, companies cared about people more. Nowadays, that's not the case. So if they look at a business unit and they think this is unnecessary, this is overkill, this is whatever, that's what we're going to end up with. That's just unfortunately how it goes. I will say that I have a lot of sympathy for the people on both ends of this deal, because I know that Microsoft doesn't want that press of, we laid off more people. But at the same time, if you got to do it, you got to do it. And that's what their accounting department, they looked at the numbers, they calculated or whatever it is they had to do. This isn't a callous, rude, hey, we're going to screw these people over, ha, ha, ha. That's not how they're operating. This isn't, evil Bobby Kotick needs another yacht. They're looking at bottom lines. They're looking at shareholders. And yeah, that seems cold and calculating to us, but that's the way businesses run. That's the way it works. Some businesses are a lot more family friendly. Microsoft is too big and they are not a family friendly company. They may be more family friendly than Bobby Kotick's regime was, but they're still going to lay off people. And that's unfortunately what happens in business, especially in America. I don't know about Europe and other parts of the world where the laws are different. Maybe you can't do this in Taiwan or in Morocco, but in America, absolutely. All you have to do is fill out the right paperwork and you can lay off as many people as you want. That ultimately it's up to the shareholders, and that's who runs these companies. You might look at a CEO and go, well, the CEO is in charge. No, they're not. No. Oh, really? The shareholders are in charge. The CEO is bound to the shareholders. And that's just how businesses run here in this country. And it sucks for these people and for their families. And just, it doesn't feel good. It feels lousy. It really does. And I just, I don't like reporting on these things, but I do want to talk about them because they are news and they are important to understand not just the gaming industry, but, how kind of business works in this country. And a lot of people, I think, young people see, oh, all these layoffs. Wow, Microsoft makes so much money. Come on, guys. It's not how it works. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works. Yeah, Microsoft might be a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but they're still going to lay people off because why waste money when you could not waste it? And that's, unfortunately, they see these people as numbers, not as people. So, all right. One thing I did want to say about this is that Phil Spencer did say that there was no games that were going to be, no games, no consoles, nothing was going to be affected by this. This is mostly like corporate and administrative type personnel. But I did see something that it looks like the Call of Duty Warzone mobile and Warcraft Rumble teams were both hit pretty hard. So take from that what you will. As a Warcraft fan, obviously we do care a little bit about Warcraft Rumble, even if it's not World of Warcraft. But it sounds like Warcraft Rumble is going to be transitioning to live services mode, which means they're not going to be developing it anymore. So I don't know if that means no more updates for it. I don't know what that means. They haven't told us, but yeah, that's unfortunate for the people who like Warcraft Rumble. I never really liked it. I couldn't get into it, but that's just me. And plenty of people like Warcraft Rumble and had a good time with it. And it's really unfortunate that this is where we ended up. So yeah, another round of layoffs, and hopefully this is the last for the year. We'll see if things can just kind of progress on. You know, it's one thing to say Microsoft is going to leave Activision or leave Blizzard alone to do their own thing. But they're still going to control the finances, and they're still going to control the bottom line. And if the bottom line says you've got too many people in these departments, we're shutting down development for Warcraft Rumble, we're shutting down development for Call of Duty Mobile, then that's what they're going to do. And we did see them talking about adding AA games for mobile, and maybe that's what it is. Because Warcraft Rumble is very clearly a AAA game that turned into a mobile game that I don't know if it's underperforming or not. I have no idea of the finances of it. I know I don't play it, but plenty of people do. So are they going to focus on smaller games? Maybe that's the case. Maybe Warcraft Rumble was too big for their britches. We'll have to see. So, all right, let's move on to something a little nicer. In Cataclysm Classic, the Molten Front is now live. So if you remember this from original Cataclysm, or if you know, like the Isle of Quel'Danis or the Argent Tournament, this is just a place to go where there's a new faction, you can get a new currency, you can get a bunch of daily quests, you get rep, you get rewards, that sort of thing. Okay, so the new faction is the Guardians of Hyjal. So yes, you're going to want to grind rep with the Guardians of Hyjal. The new currency is the Mark of the World Tree. Now, one interesting thing about this currency is that you're going to use it to unlock the new phases of the Molten Front. I forget what the number is, but a certain number of currency you give to an NPC, and then they will open up the next section for you, and then you'll get new quests, which allow you to earn more currency, etc. So it's all it's time gated, but it's like you can choose how to unlock the time gating on it. So it's all right. I mean, some of these dailies are okay. Some of these dailies are kind of lame. I think you have to do like the clicking, clicking on the little animal to rescue them, and then they move so fast that you can't click on them correctly, and or the bears climbing up the tree or whatever. But yeah, it's all in the Hyjal zone. You can go there. You can talk to the NPCs. They'll give you the quests. And yeah, there you go. And you just do them every day because you get currency every day. And if you miss a day, you miss out on that currency. The rewards, so you'll get eye level 365 epics. There's a bunch of gear that you can get. There's profession patterns, depending on how much rep you have. There's profession patterns, there's pets, there's toys. There's lots of things that you can earn through rep with either the currency or you pay gold for it. The biggest thing, though, that you're going to want to get from this is if you complete the meta achievement, the Molten Front Offensive, then that will open up, or you will get rewarded with the Flame Ward Hippogriff. So if you remember the Hippogriff from Burning Crusade that you got from what was it, Cenarian Expedition, I believe. So if you remember that one, it's the same Hippogriff, but it's on fire. It looks pretty cool. A lot of people probably have this on retail because a lot of people did this back in the day or went back and did it later. But yeah, you can get it on Cataclysm Classic now. So there you go. There's a new mount for you, new toys, new pets, new epics, new patterns for your different professions. Lots of stuff to get, lots of content. And, this to me was the biggest thing that Cataclysm was missing is once you got to level 85, and you did the raid, you're kind of done. Doing heroics doesn't really get you a whole lot, and even running ZG and Zulamon doesn't really get you a whole lot in terms of like end game progression. This isn't end game progression, but at least gives you something to do. So take from that what you will. It's now available in Cataclysm Classic. All right, let's talk a little bit about Delves, because I was really excited about Delves going into this expansion. And so far in the preseason, I've been kind of like, it's not really what I was looking for. But we were limited to tier 3. So as I mentioned already, I went tier 7 across the board. I did 8. So here's the thing. I was watching these hotfixes come in, and when Delves first came out, when you could go up to tier 8 and above, but tier 8 is where you get the max gear. I watched the Delves come in, and I watched players, and I was like, okay, people like raiders, high-end raiders are doing Delves because it's the best gear that you can get outside of raid. And people really quickly realized that solo Delves were incredibly difficult. And if you got into a group, it was a lot easier. You could slam through it really fast. A 2-person group was really easy. Even a 5-person group was easier than doing it solo. So Blizzard was like, hey, that's not what we wanted. We don't want people to feel like they're forced to do groups. So, of course, they made it easier to solo. No, I'm kidding. They made it harder to do groups. Blizzard, what are you doing? Stop. Apparently, there were some bugs with the scaling, and it wasn't working correctly for groups, larger groups. So that's fine. I get it. And then they realized that Delves were now just too hard, and people didn't want to do them, or they were struggling. So they nerfed solo Delves, and then they buffed Bran. And here we are today, where they're going through and they're nickel and diming these spells, where they're going, okay, this spell, we're going to reduce the cast time on it, or we're going to reduce the amount of times it's cast, or we're going to make it have an initial cast before the channel so that the casters don't get interrupted. The biggest one to me was the web bolt, because you'd interrupt the web bolt and they'd just keep casting. You'd be like, well, screw you, I'm going to do it again. So I feel like Delves are in a pretty good spot right now. I mean, here's the thing. I want to see how things look this week, now that we have Mythic Plus, and so people don't feel pressured to do Delves because they're like, well, I'll just go run M+. Because you can slam M+ ad nauseum and get all the gear you want. So are Delves going to kind of taper off? Maybe not. Maybe people are going to save them for their alts. Maybe a lot of people are going to want to do them. I feel like Delves should be solo content that you can do in a group, not group content that you can also do solo. And what I mean by that is the focus should be on doing it by yourself. That should be the best Delve experience that Blizzard can produce. By yourself, or I'd say two players. That way a team of 2 friends, husband and wife, whatever, parent and child can go do Delves, 2 people, and it's good. It feels good. It's a good difficulty. That's where I think the focus for Delves should be. I don't think that they should be super hard and challenging content. Now, I get that tier 7 and 8 Delves need to be hard because they hold some of the best gear. But in 8 weeks, nobody's going to care if you're getting champion gear from your Delve, because everybody's going to be on their mains fully decked out in hero gear. Everybody's going to be with their myth gear. And here's us Delvers who are going to be like, I'm going to get champion gear. So I don't know why the Delver is suddenly a redneck, but I really was hoping for a smoother rollout. But at least Blizzard is on top of it, and they're making these adjustments quickly. I mean, we had how many Delve hotfixes in the past week? And we'll probably get more this week. So I think overall, I like the rollout of Delves. I like how they've been rolled out. I like what we're doing and where we're going. I just wish that there was a little bit more cohesion to how everything works. So I don't know. That's what it is. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that the right people are playing Delves and giving the right feedback to Blizzard, because I think a lot of the feedback they got was from people who are going to be doing M+ this week and aren't going to be doing Delves. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. All right. This week is actually, no, we'll do that at the end. So the PTR for patch 11.0.5 is now available. So you can get on there, you can check it out, you can copy your character, you can check out the festivities at the Caverns of Time in Tanaris, I don't know how it's pronounced. Yeah, so if you are interested in checking that out on the public test realm, you can install that on your Battle.net client and try that out. I have not had an opportunity to do that yet, but I definitely want to get over there and try that because, for one thing, I want to see kind of how this currency works and how the different events work and kind of get a feel for that. So I'll probably do that this week, and then I'll have some more to say about that on next week's episode. A couple things that I did want to mention, though. First off, in patch 11.0.5, the Drakthir will lose the tail swipe racial. It will become an evoker-only ability. And the Drakthir, who are warriors or rogues or mages or priests or whatever, they just won't get it. It'll be baseline evoker, and that's just that. So if people were hoping for tail swipe, you're not going to get it. So I don't know if that makes suddenly Drakthir less attractive. I mean, I feel like it's still, I don't know. I'm still going to make a Drakthir rogue, but I don't know that I'll ever play him. Yeah, so that's, whenever you have a really powerful racial and then you're like, ooh, this is problematic. So, all right. In the PTR right now, one thing that I wanted to point out is the tier 2 sets that are available. There is going to be a discount after you've purchased one. The rest will be discounted to help you purchase if you want. Like if you want to get the entire catalog of 13 tier 2 sets, I don't know if you can actually get that based on how much currency we get, but getting a discount on them will help you get more, certainly. So yeah, if you get your Judgment set and then you're like, ooh, I want the Wrath set, I want the Dragonstalker set, I want the 10 Storms, then yeah, it'll be easier to get those sets. So that's pretty good. I like kind of how they have created this patch, and while most of it is going to be the anniversary, there's still other things going on. It's not just the anniversary stuff. But yeah, I think overall, it's is what it is. There's going to be a bunch of hotfixes, or not hotfixes. There's going to be a bunch of adjustments to classes. And I don't want to go through and read all the patch notes for it, but just know rogues, resto druids, survival hunters, enhancement shamans, and a couple of others, they're all getting talent changes. And this is really common now for Blizzard. This is something that they never did before, which was changing things on the fly. And yes, so it's a .5 patch. But this sort of thing used to only happen in a major patch or in an expansion level update. Changing things in a 0.5 patch is crazy. We haven't ever seen this except for in Dragonflight, obviously, where it started. And so Blizzard's just continuing this. So they're reworking several classes. They're reworking some hero talents. They're reworking some regular talents. Just trying to clean things up. Some classes are getting buffs. Some classes are getting nerfs. It just depends. I would definitely check out the patch notes, but just keep in mind that will change over the next couple of weeks as they go through and they continue to tweak these numbers. I think we're going to end up seeing this patch sometime around the last week of October, which, I don't know, what is that, the 29th? 22nd or 29th is my guess. Maybe it'll be the 5th of November. I don't know. But that's kind of our window for patch 11.0.5. So if you're really looking forward to the anniversary event and all that entails, that's likely when we're going to get it. So there you go. All right. The last news item that I will mention is so this is the second week of season 1. And so here's what's available to players in the War Within. We have Mythic Plus dungeons, or Keystone dungeons. We have Mythic Raid. We have Raid Story Mode, which is the final boss encounter with easier mechanics and designed for one person to be able to do it by themselves, so they can get the story credit and see the final cinematic. And then Raid Finder Wing 2. Now, one thing to point out with the story mode raid is that there is a quest to kill Queen Ansarek. And in doing so, you will be rewarded with a enchanted runed Harbinger crest, the thing that will allow you to craft a better piece of gear than just with your spark. So you can complete this quest on story mode. So once you get this quest, you have to have completed the entire campaign of the max level campaign. And if you have done that, then you'll get this quest and you can kill Xal'atath. Or sorry, no, I wish we could kill Xal'atath, but not yet. You can kill Queen Ansarek in the story mode raid, or any version of the raid that you so choose, except for Raid Finder, because that's not out yet. And you will get this item, and it will be, you can craft a really powerful item. A lot of people are thinking they're going to use this to craft a really good weapon, which that's probably what I will do. Yeah, so there you go. Make sure that you check out story mode. If you are not in a raiding guild, I would definitely check this out. If my guild does not get Ansarek down this week, I will definitely be doing story mode so I can get the credit for the quest and get my crest. So I can get I'll either get a weapon or it'll probably be a weapon. Yeah. So there you go. Raid Finder Wing 3, which is the Silken Court and Queen Ansarek herself, will be available next week, September 24th. And then that will be it. That'll be all the content for the War Within. Everything after that is just gravy. All of the new content is available or will be available as of next week. And then we'll start in with Arena World Championships and MDI prep and all of that stuff. That'll be that. Meanwhile, the Race to World First is kicking off today, but that'll be our main topic for the week. So we'll get into that in just a minute here. And so, yeah, that's everything that's going on this week in World of Warcraft. Like I said, there's lots of news. There's lots of things going on. There was something about Season of Discovery, but I hadn't gotten to that one yet. So I'll talk about that next week. So, yeah, that's it. Let's move on to our main topic of the day.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
So today is the first day of the Race to World First in the War Within for Nerub-ar Palace. This is a very exciting thing for me. I love the Race to World First. I've been following it since Shadowlands. Ever since I saw the video of the Sylvanas wipe where they thought they were going to defeat the boss encounter at 50%, and it continued on past 50 down to 45%, and so they wiped. I've been hooked ever since. I watched The Jailer. I was really excited about that one, although that one just took forever. So I was like, oh, and it's The Jailer. It's just annoying. But then we had the Razageth Race to World First, which was really exciting. I really liked that one. For the Aberrus Race to World First, I actually moved across country, so I didn't get to watch that one. So that was a bummer. But Amir still watching the Guild's Prague on Tidril. And as Blizzard hotfixed the boss, little bits here, little bits there, trying to have them be killable by the guilds. So I've really enjoyed the Race to World First. Obviously, I don't really care about the Awakened seasons because those raids they're just repeats. Some people do, and that's fine. But I'm talking about just the Race to World First for the initial launch of the raid and the kill of the final boss. So why do I care about the Race to World First? What's so exciting about it? If you've never watched the Race to World First, if you've never paid attention to it, if you're like, this is dumb, I don't want to watch other people playing a video game, I'd rather play the video game. Let me explain to you why it is that I like the Race to World First. I'll give you a little bit of history on the Race to World First, and we'll talk about some of the things to expect in this current race and how I think it's going to go down. All right, so let's kick off with why do I like the Race to World First? Why is this so exciting for me? Why is this something that I'm interested in? And why is it that I'm going to talk to you about it for the next 30 odd minutes? Well, the Race to World First is an esports event. And esports, just like any sport, is a spectator sport. It's designed to be watched by people. Generally speaking, it's going to be watched by the people who enjoy the content that they are watching. Although some people, I'm sure, hate watch different things and different streamers. But if you think about sports think about like the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, Major League Baseball. And yes, I just named 4 American sports because I'm an American, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to talk about any soccer or Formula One, although I could. But no, I'm going to focus on the 4 major American sports. So in every city in America, and even in the rural parts of the country, and in Canada too, to some extent, you have people who play sports for fun. That's just a thing. Whether it's kids playing a pickup game of hoops at a city park, or people playing flag football in the empty field over by Mr. Wallace's farm. It doesn't matter. People play sports. Roller hockey, ice hockey, whatever it is you're playing. People do that. Kids, adults. You've got your 30 plus baseball leagues, your beer leagues. You've got Little League, Pony League, Pee Wee football. I mean, there's all sorts of sports leagues all across this country, or really across the world. And so none of these players are what I would consider the best in the world. They're not. The players who are the best in the world are the ones who play in the leagues. The NHL, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. Those are the best players. And so when you say, I want to watch a baseball game, generally speaking, what you're talking about is you're going to watch a professional baseball game featuring the highest paid players. Now, you might go to a baseball game and it's minor league baseball or minor league hockey or college football or whatever. And that's fine. And people get really into those sports as well. But the best of the best of the best, this is starting to sound like a Men in Black quote. The best of the best teams are all the professional teams. Now, what does this have to do with World of Warcraft? Well, I think you can see where I'm going with this. The best teams are the ones who are winning these Race to World First competitions. Your Echoes, your Liquids, your Methods. Those guilds are the best guilds in the world. That's why they win the Race to World First competition, because they are the best. They're the best funded. They are the best. They have the best recruiters. They have the best managers and coordinators and the people, the administrators. These are companies. This is not just a group of people who drink beer and play World of Warcraft. These are actual corporations. They do a lot more than just World of Warcraft. They have other games that they play. They sponsor different tournaments. They have lots of different competitions. World of Warcraft is just part of this larger slice of esports. So for the Race to World First, that to me is the premier event in World of Warcraft. Every time we have a new raid tier, to watch these guilds go at it, they rent out a location where they can set up all their computers. They can all get together. They raid, they coordinate. They raid for hours and hours a day. I think I read somewhere some guilds even do up to 20 hours in a day. Sleep for 4 hours and then come back and do some more. I couldn't do that. I'd be falling asleep at my desk. But that's obviously extreme. And the reason that they do that is because this is a one-time event. This isn't like, oh, well, we've got a match next week against Method, and then we've got a match the week after that against Liquid. No, this is the raid tier. When the raid tier is released, the race is on. Who can get there first? Who's the best guild? That's it. That's the whole race. And so you watch them go. You watch these guilds kill these bosses that maybe you've already killed on normal or heroic, but you're watching them do it on Mythic, and it's incredibly difficult. And they are incredibly coordinated. When you watch, if you ever want to see something super coordinated, watch one of these Race to World First guilds wipe. And watch how fast they die They all die right away. When the raid leader says wipe, they're all dead. And they're either they wait for a res or they're running back as fast as they can. It's like a clockwork machine. They are on top of it. It's really cool to watch. But just, as somebody who has raided for many years in World of Warcraft, and even raided at a high level back when there was only normal raids, I can appreciate that there is a level of preparation and there's a level of dedication and tenacity that has to go into this sort of thing. So, all that to say, this is a sport and this is something that I enjoy watching, just like I would watch a basketball game. I might not know who the raiders on Echo are or Liquid are, while I might know who LeBron is, or I might know, who Landeskog is. I mean, that's just how it is. But if you want to appreciate this high level of competition, it's there, and you can just watch it on Twitch, you can watch it on YouTube, and it's entertaining. So, and you don't have to sit and watch 20 hours of raid. You can jump in, watch a couple of pulls, and then bounce, and then check up on it later. Like, oh, who's in the lead? Oh, Echo's in the lead. Oh, Liquid just defeated that boss, and Echo wiped at 1%. Oh my gosh, that's the excitement of it. So that's why I like to watch it. But I'm more of than just like in the moment. I want to know where this came from. And I've cared about the world first kill on a World of Warcraft boss since vanilla. Obviously I wasn't playing in the beginning of vanilla. I started playing in May of 2005. So that was right before Blackwing Lair came out. So when Blackwing Lair came out, it was suddenly a really big deal of who was going to kill Nefarian first. That was a lot of the talk in Ironforge trade chat, was who was going to kill Nefarian first. So back in those days, you didn't have Raider.io. We didn't have YouTube. You had to kill the boss, take a screenshot of that, and put that on your guild forums or on the Blizzard forums so that people could see the proof that you killed the boss. That's what we had to do. There was no other way to prove that you killed the boss. I mean, I guess you could have the loot from that boss and say, oh, see, I have the loot. That's proof. But you had to take your screenshot. And, unfortunately, a lot of the information from those days is gone. Those websites are long since closed down. Those forums have long since gone away. And a lot of those pictures are gone. So unfortunately, we do have the records of which guilds killed which bosses first, but not much else besides that. So if we go through the list and you go, all right, who was the race to world first? Like, who did this first? And remember, this was months that they would spend doing this. This wasn't like a week-long thing. They would spend months, and these were there was one difficulty of raid. That was it. So back in vanilla, we had 5 40-player raids. Obviously, we had Zul'Gurub, and we had the Ruins of Ahn'Qiraj. We're not counting those. We're just counting the top level of raids. So Molten Core was the guild Ascent, which is a US guild. We had Onyxia's Lair was the guild Ruined, which was also a US guild. And Blackwing Lair was the guild Drama, which is also a US guild. Now, we had 3 in a row from US servers, or NA servers. And then Neolum took over. They killed Sethune in Temple of AQ. They killed Kel'Thuzad in Naxx, Gruul's Lair, Magtheridon's Lair, Serpent Shrine Cavern, Tempest Keep, Battle for Mount Hyjal, Black Temple. It was quite the run. After that, and I, like I said, a lot of this has gone fuzzy over the years, but there was some sort of a drama involving the guild where they broke up or some people left. It happened a lot back then. So for Stunwell Plateau, we had SK Gaming, and SK Gaming has been around for a long time. I think they just recently disbanded. Was it in Shadowlands maybe? or Dragonflight, one of the two. But they've been around for a long time, and yeah. So after Burning Crusade, we get into Wrath of the Lich King, where things change a little bit, because in Wrath of the Lich King, you can now show your achievement. Hey, I got the achievement for killing this boss. And going into the Trial of the Crusader raid, we have the capability to change difficulty. So Trial of the Crusader, Trial of the Grand Crusader was actually the top raid for that patch in Wrath of the Lich King. We had Icecrown Citadel Heroic. We had Ruby Sanctum Heroic. Nothing else before that, because even Ulduar hard mode, it wasn't heroic, it was just Ulduar. You just could make it harder and get better loot. So whether you killed Yogg-Saron hard mode or not, didn't matter, you still killed Yogg-Saron. So Wrath of the Lich King, we had Insidia, which is a European guild. They killed Nax, Obsidian Sanctum, and Eye of Eternity. We had the guild Stars, which is a Chinese guild. They killed Ulduar, or Yogg-Saron. Paragon, they did the Anubarak in Trial of the Grand Crusader, and the Lich King in Icecrown Citadel. And then Premonition did Halion in Ruby Sanctum. If we move on to Cataclysm, we had some continuations with Paragon. So Blackwing Descent, Bastion of Twilight, Throne of the Four Winds, Firelands, all Paragon. Dragon Soul was KIN Raiders, which is a Korean guild. And then in Mists of Pandaria, we had our first taste of the Method takeover. So Method killed the twin constructs or whatever in Mogushan Vaults. Blood Legion killed the queen in Heart of Fear, and then Method cleaned up the rest of Mists of Pandaria with Terrace of Endless Springs, Throne of Thunder, Siege of Orgrimmar. Paragon jumped back in for Highmaul in Warlords of Draenor, and then it was Method again for Blackrock Foundry and Hellfire Citadel. Now, after Warlords of Draenor, things changed again, because we now have a record of every guild that killed every boss in World of Warcraft because of Raider.io. So if you look on Raider.io now, it goes back to Legion, and you can see. So if you want to see the race to World First for Emerald Nightmare, it's on there. You can see who was number 1, who was number 6, who was number 15. So we can get a much better idea of how these guilds are doing and kind of where things are and how this race has changed over the years. We have a solid written record of it now, and we will, because unless Raider.io just decides to go away, this information is all available through the Blizzard API. So Blizzard has released this information as of Legion, and so now we're able to have a historical record of it. So, yeah, I mean, we're just going through the list. It's like you had a guild, Exorcist, which is a Russian guild. They were the first for Emerald Nightmare and the Nighthold, but Method hit everything else in Legion, Trial of Valor, Tomb of Sargeras, and Tauros, and into Battle for Azeroth, Uldir, Battle of Dazar Lore. The guild SK Pieces jumped in for Crucible of Storms, but then Method was right back in it with the Eternal Palace. Now, at this point, you had the guild Limit, which I believe at the time they were Complexity Limit. They were the World First for Dialotha and Castle Nathria into Shadowlands. So this was kind of the first change of this Method domination of the race to World First. Also, at the same time, the majority of the raid core of Method decided to leave and start their own guild because they didn't like Method's leadership. So that's where you get the guild Echo. So Echo was birthed from Method. And then after, so if you continue on through Shadowlands, so Castle Nathria was Limit, Sanctum of Domination was Echo, Sepulchre of the First Ones was Echo, then Limit became Liquid, and Echo took Vault of the Incarnates, Liquid took Aberrus the Shadow Crucible, and Echo took Amir to Steal the Dream's Hope. So throughout that, I mean, you have guilds that have kind of come and gone. You have some Chinese guilds that jumped in and out. You have a couple of different European guilds, not a lot of US guilds. We had BDGG or BDG that they jumped in, they did a little bit in Shadowlands and Dragonflight, but then they disbanded before the end of Dragonflight. So, there's always a lot of drama that goes into the Race to World First and these high-end guilds, because these people, look, let's be honest, they all have an ego. So I'm just saying, so that's kind of the full rundown. I mean, there's been a lot of different guilds that have won the Race to World First, but it's been pretty much Method and a little bit of Liquid throughout the history of WoW, especially since we have the method of tracking it from Legion. If you look at the top 5, it's very clear that Method, Echo, and Liquid are the top 3 guilds in the world for a long time, not just for this current expansion or for Dragonflight. They've been the top 3 guilds for a long time, not exclusively, but definitely that's been the case. So, what does this mean for some of these other guilds out there? Because there are a lot of guilds that maybe get really close. Maybe they raid a lot. Maybe they have a good core. How do they compare to these other guilds? Well, the biggest thing is sponsorships. These top 3 guilds all have sponsorships to the point where they themselves can sponsor tournaments and different things. And so when the Race to World First comes around and you see these guilds renting a room or renting like a conference area where they can set up and they can record and broadcast their Race to World First, they hire their own broadcast team. If you know people like Dratnos and Tettles and some of these YouTubers and streamers, they are hired by these guilds to come in and broadcast the Race to World First. They're not doing this for fun. They're being paid to do this by these guilds. And in some parts Raider.io. So, it's a really big event. When you're looking at the Arena World Championships or the Mythic Dungeon International, those are sponsored by Blizzard. Blizzard sponsors those events, and they pay the winner of those tournaments. This is a community-run thing. Yes, Blizzard released the raid, and they will help promote this for the community, but they are not running it. This is a community-driven thing, and the community is the one that is making it into what it is today. So, with that being said, everybody knows Liquid, Method, and Echo. But I wanted to talk about some of the other guilds that are kind of in the hunt for this Race to World First. Some guilds who have maybe come up really close to the last few tiers, raid tiers. And, let's give them some recognition because these are solid teams. And this isn't just like I said before, a group of guys chugging beer. No, these are real raid teams. So let's start with the guild that came in 4th in the Amir Drasil race, which is Instant Dollars. Instant Dollars is a US based guild. They're on the server Mal'Ganis. They finished number 4, so that makes them number 2 in the US or North America, however you want to phrase that. They have been rating cutting edge content since Legion. And they've slowly been working their way up. They were hitting in the 20s World First, and just slowly moving up till now they're number 4. And like I said, these guilds raid a lot. Most of them raid 6 or 7 days a week. So if you were thinking about joining one of these guilds and you don't have 6 or 7 days a week to raid, maybe this isn't gonna work for you. The next one is Fat Shark Yes. And this is a European guild. They are on the server Kazakh. They are number 6 in the world and number 3 in the EU. And they have been raiding cutting edge since Warlords of Draenor. This guild, so I was looking at their Twitter profile. They have their own merch. They've got their logo, which is like the shark, like a grinning shark. This is like a legit guild. They had pictures of their team all standing around wearing their shirts. It's pretty cool. Considering that they don't get the publicity that some of these other guilds get, it's really good. Next one is Mate, which is a Korean guild, and I'm sure that Mate is not how they say their own name, but they've given us an Englishized version of it. So they're on the Korean realm Ashara. They are number 7 in the world and number 1 in the Korea region. And they've been raiding Cutting Edge since Battle for Azeroth. And this is another guild that's slowly been working their way up, kind of knocking out their competitors and just getting to the point where they are the best guild in the Korea region. All right, next up we have Skyline, which is a Chinese guild. So they're actually a Taiwan-based guild. So if you remember it wasn't last year, it was 2 years ago. Whenever it was that the WoW servers went away in China, it was last year. This guild actually reformed on the Taiwanese server and leveled up all new characters on all new accounts so that they could raid. And they are now number 2 in the Taiwan region, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know if they're going to be going back to the Chinese servers. I don't know if those characters still exist even. I have no idea. It's really tough on the Asian guilds because most of their content does not come in English. And it's a lot harder to Google Translate from Chinese or Korean than it is to translate from like Spanish or some of these other European languages. So I wasn't able to get a whole lot of information on them, but just looking at their Raider.io profile, they seem like they've been pretty prolific over the last few expansions. So great. Go for it. Whether you're on the Chinese servers or on the, it does look like they are on they re-rolled to the Chinese servers because their Raider.io profile looks like none of them are above item level 600. So that's more than likely they've gone back to the Chinese servers. All right, next up is Exposed. This is a Czech guild, so it's a European guild, but they all speak Czech. Their website and everything was in Czech, so I was like, I had to Google Translate that one, and that one I could figure out a little bit better. But they're number 11 in the world. They are number 4 EU, and they've been raiding Cutting Edge since Legion. Most of the European guilds communicate in social media and different things in English. I guess it's just generally easier, or I don't know why they do it in English, but they do. So this is one of the ones that they just don't. They're like, no, we're a Czech guild. Screw you. So good for them. And then finally, we have Honestly, which is an Oceanic guild. They are number 12 in the world, and they are number 1 Oceanic. And they're on the Frostmourne server. So Frostmourne is like the Oceanic Illidan server. It's like every top guild on the Oceanic servers is on Frostmourne. Or most of them, I should say, not every. And they've been raiding Cutting Edge since Warlords of Draenor. So, just a few guilds to kind of keep an eye on as the race unfolds. Who knows if they're going to make it or if they're not. Maybe they don't. Maybe their main tank had a new baby and he couldn't be there, or maybe their top healer had to had a rough day at work and he couldn't make the raid. Who knows? But these are just some of the guilds that were some of the top guilds at the end of Dragonflight that I wanted to highlight that are not the top 3 Method, Liquid, and Echo. So, this is, like I said, this is really fascinating to me. It's really interesting to kind of get an idea about these guilds and about these players. And, these guilds, whether or not they win the Race to World First, they're getting a lot of publicity because they get in there. And some of these top guilds, they start with doing splits. So they go in and they do heroic splits. And if you don't know what a split is, it's basically they will raid heroic with just a handful of their main players, and they have a bunch of alts that are going through and running these main players through, and they will funnel all the gear to those mains so that they can gear up more quickly, and then so on and so forth throughout. With different alts. So these raiders have to level up multiple alts so they could do these splits over and over and over and over. So they're just running this raid so many times just on the first week. And then they're going to do more splits this week. I think Liquid has already started killing Mythic bosses, but they were doing splits earlier today. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. But that's that's what they do. Anyway, so while the top guilds are doing splits, some of these other guilds jump in and they claim the world first of, whichever boss. So they're, it's not as prestigious as killing the last boss first, but it still gets your name on Radar.io and on Twitter and some of these other places. So, then you have people who are like, ooh, I might want to join that guild. I'm a pretty good player. And then that's how they recruit. So I just think it's pretty cool. I think the whole thing is really fun. I hope that this hasn't been too boring for people, me just talking about the race to world first, but I just find it fascinating. So there you go. All right. That's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I really do appreciate it. It is always a pleasure and a privilege for me to get on this microphone and talk to you. So I appreciate you listening and appreciate you subscribing on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. I have to say, I have to admit something here. This is the second time I've done this podcast today because the first time I did it, I had a misconfiguration on my microphone and I got zero sound. So I talked and talked and talked for an hour and got zero results out of it. So I hope that I was able to keep up my enthusiasm, but if not, feel free to point it out in the comments and let me know what a schmuck I am for making a terrible technical mistake on the podcast. So, all right. Like I said, that'll wrap up our show. If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me on Twitter. I am at Denethar. You can also occasionally catch me streaming on Twitch. I am Denethar01. Or on YouTube, you can find me there. I'm at Denethar01 as well. If you want to come check out the Discord, we've got lots of good conversations going on in the Discord. You can also give us some feedback there. The link to the Discord will be in our link tree. That is linktr.ee/Azeroth United. Check that out. And it's got all the links to the social media and everything for the podcast. So I would definitely suggest checking that out if you're interested in any of that. And even if you just want to pop in and say hi, you don't need to talk. You don't need to carry on a conversation. You could just pop in and say hi and maybe give me an emoji or something. That's fine too. But if you'd like to get on there and give me feedback, I'm more than happy to receive it. I've already gotten plenty of feedback on there and I'm working that into some of the next shows coming up. But always looking for more. And would love to engage with fans. And really just, I want to talk about World of Warcraft. That's what I love doing that. And I love hearing other people's opinions about the game and talking about different things. And, oh, well, what did you get to experience? And what did you do? And all that sort of thing. So anyway, yeah, if you'd like to come join us on the Discord server, I'd be happy to welcome you over there. Also, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I will be launching a Patreon soon. I am finalizing that, and it should be ready within the next week or so. But in the interim, if you are interested in that, if that's something that you're like, hey, yeah, I like your podcast, I might want to give you a couple bucks because, I'm not out here trying to make money. This isn't something I'm doing for work, but I do pay for it. I pay for the equipment. I pay for the streaming. I pay for the hosting for all of the episodes. It's not much, but I do pay for it. So, if you want to help me out a little bit, I would really appreciate it. That would be great. But if you want to just enjoy the show, it'll always be free. I'm never going to charge you to listen to Azeroth United. So, all right. That'll do it. Thank you again so much. Remember to be good to each other out there. That's a real person on the other side of that computer. And, maybe they're busy watching the race to world first and they forgot to interrupt on that boss fight or something. So just be patient, be kind to each other, remember to smile, and just be nice. So, all right. Take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.